Have you ever wondered why there's suddenly a werewolf in the middle of Toussaint eating this poor woman? Well, if you have, it's for a good reason. Because there's actually a hidden story behind him and this whole place. These events occur at the Basane farm, or however it's pronounced.
Oi, oi, oi. Oi, oi, oi.
It is located over here, and all you can really do once you arrive is to kill the werewolf, which triggers the meditation scene, followed by all the workers who return to continue their lives as normal. And before I begin, I have to say thanks to a couple of viewers who commented or sent messages to help me piece this whole thing together, namely Bishop Cruz and Ellen. Okay, the first thing is that you can loot an eviction notice from the werewolf's body. It is written by a certain countess, I'm just gonna call her Tiffany, and addressed towards Hubert and Giselle Durette, who were apparently the original owners. However, it turns out that Tiffany has bought or otherwise got a hold of the place and is now forcing them to leave. So that's all we learn initially. However, there is more. If we venture north from the now liberated farm, we'll begin encountering packs of wolves, which eventually lead us to a cave. Inside the cave there are even more wolves, as well as some items that seem to belong to humans. And as we go deeper, yet another hostile werewolf appears. There is no special loot on the body this time, but if we explore the cave until the end, another piece of the story is revealed. We find Giselle's journal. If you remember from the first note, Giselle was one of the two people mentioned. I guess I'll just read this one for you. It is done. Tiffany has bought the farm, and after so many happy years, we have to leave our comfortable abode. When Hubert received the eviction notice, he flew into such rage it took a great deal for me to calm him. I explained it was already a miracle we'd been able to live for so long among men. I fear Hubert will prove unable to control his transformations while he's in such a state. So it turns out that Hubert was in fact the werewolf we slew at the farm initially. Come to think of it, in Novigrad we had a Hubert vampire, and now we have a Hubert werewolf. But anyway, the journal goes on to say, "We've moved into a cave in the Blessure forest. They allowed us to take a few possessions from the farm. We have a bed, a table and some candles. Things aren't so bad. The cave is a bit damp, true, and one night in I can already tell it will play havoc with my joints. Hubert had an attack when he heard me cough. He screamed he would return to the farm and sink his teeth in the Countess. I have a bad feeling. Hubert has disappeared. I'm terrified. Shivers run down my spine. I can taste blood in my mouth. What will become of us if he loses all control?" And of course now it is safe to say that Giselle was the second werewolf that we just killed before reading this journal. Now, at first, based on the names and the way the journal is worded, I assumed that this was a werewolf couple where Hubert was the husband and Giselle the wife. In fact, one of the people who talked to me about this, namely Bishop Cruz, also thought so. However, Ellen mentioned that in her localization of the game, I believe she played The Witcher in Czech, they were referring to Giselle and Hubert as you would refer to men or boys. And actually, even in English, if you look at the first note, it says sirs. So it appears that Giselle is a man, and most likely Hubert's brother. What is more, I think there's actually a good chance that they were naturally born werewolves. You see, back in the Witcher books, we have just such a case. There was a werewolf couple, a man and a woman, who, if I'm not mistaken, were both afflicted by curses of some kind, and yet they were able to have children. 3 daughters, in fact, and all of them had naturally inherited their parents' lycanthropy. Perhaps another piece of evidence to support this is in Giselle's journal, where he mentions difficulty controlling the transformations, and also the many happy years they lived there, presumably among humans, which to me suggests that they didn't necessarily have to turn into monsters at night or during the full moon, or anything like Neelan the Hunter, for example. Instead, I think they were able to choose when it happens, at least assuming they weren't too angry or too desperate. Now, I will admit that the lore behind how lycanthropy operates is a bit murky, or perhaps ill-defined, You see, we have werewolves who are decent as humans, but rather aggressive as wolves, and do not even remember what they did during their transformation. We have ones that are constantly in their wolven form. We have ones who retained their human personality when they transform, like the case is with that story I mentioned in the books, where the father was a kind man and also a kind wolf upon his transformation. We also have the naturally born werewolves and so on. But anyway, it turns out that we had a couple of werewolves running a sheep farm. You can tell it's a sheep farm from all the sheep around it, but also from a piece of dialogue that can be unlocked after liberating the place with this twitchy coiffeur here. Here's what he says.
Hey there, Witcher! Come, we must speak! The werewolf... Did you kill it?
Mm-hmm.
It murdered folk, devoured sheep, ravaged the farm. Oh, what a relief that's done with. I thank you. If you wish, I shall give you a trim. I just need a moment. My hands are still shaking.
What's a barber do on a farm like this?
He shears sheep, because sheep are calm, unlikely to scream at him if a lock is out of place or a color a touch off the desired shade. And here no one threatens to shorten you by a head if you trim a bit too much.
Somebody threatened to do that to you?
To me? No, but, well, one hears things. I found it impossible to work under incessant pressure. When I saw the notice, urgent specialist sheep shearer sort, well, I didn't give it a second thought. And it was pleasant at first, but then that werewolf appeared.
He was quite scared from the werewolf, but it turns out that one of the werewolves may have actually been his employer. Finally, here is Beauclair's report of the situation, where they mention Geralt's officially registered silver sword. You can pause the video and read it if you wish, and I think that was it. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, feel free to give it a like. Also, tell me what you think of the whole situation and whether you've encountered these things in your own playthroughs. Thank you very much for watching. Special thanks to the people who became my YouTube members or supporters on Patreon, and of course to Bishop and Ellen for their help. Alright, until the next video, stay tuned and be good.